Hello and welcome to Cut and Splice. My name is Gil,
This is Jason.
And Matt?
and today, for the first time, we're joined by a guest host to get some more points of views into the conversation. We definitely need it after many episodes we've had till now. And we're joined by Naor, who's from Israel, all the way from Israel, who's my childhood friend. How's it going, Naor?
Hi, how you doing? Great to be here.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you
Thank you.
for being here. And we'll try to keep this as efficient as possible, being with the time differences and everything. But if Naor has to leave us at some point, we'll transition and continue the conversation if needed.
What time is it over there now?
It's 6 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But I mostly work the night shift, so
All
it's
right.
convenient.
So we are going to be discussing Man of Steel today, and this idea was born out of at some point I had made a post about Man of Steel, and Naor and Jason got into a little bit of a kerfuffle, as they
You know,
say.
it's funny. I don't remember this, but I totally believe you. I totally believe you.
Yeah, it was years ago, I think.
Yeah.
It had to be years ago, maybe when the movie came out, or at least when Batman v Superman or something came
I'm
out.
sure it had to be something about that.
Yes. So in any case, I just thought, like many of our arguments online, it's nice to bring it to the podcast and maybe make it a bit more civil, because there could be more of a back and forth, just to see where everybody actually stands, because obviously you can get a bit more nuanced with this, even though we want to keep it as efficient as possible. So one thing I want to do before I go to Naor, because I want to give Naor the first go at this, but but I just want to start with Matt's comment that I need Matt to repeat the quote of what he wrote to me and Jason a few days ago after watching Man of Steel, just so we have a good start to this.
It should be good.
Matt, what was it? Oh, should I quote you?
Go ahead and quote me if it's in front of you.
So Matt, you're messaging me and Jason after you watch Man of Steel. We're making sure that everybody's ready for this episode, and you said this, and I quote: "I already rewatched it. I followed that up by rewatching The Dark Knight to wash the taste of Snyder dick out of my mouth." So, sorry,
Wow.
I messed it up. And I think it's a very appropriate quote, because I don't think that me and Naor would necessarily disagree. Snyder definitely doesn't hide his humongous cinematic penis in his movies, and it's all a question of whether you you love dick or not, I guess, in the cinematic universe. But yeah,
How
and Naor,
appropriate.
Naor, did you rewatch it recently for the episode, or did you get a chance?
Yeah. I've watched yesterday. I have to say I've watched this film like more than a dozen times, I think.
Hmm.
Which is the only, I don't know, comic book material or related movie I've ever watched so much.
Wow.
Most of the time, I just watch them
Mhm.
maybe once, twice, and that's it. That's saying a lot about how I like this movie and its style. I did not watch all of the other Snyder movies that much. Okay, just this one.
Meaning the ones
And
before or since or both?
no, I'm talking if you take Watchmen or 300 or
Okay.
BVS, the
Yeah.
the famous Snyder cut. I haven't watched them more than twice, I think. Just
Okay.
this one, okay?
Oh, so it's the only one that you've rewatched several
Yeah,
times. Yeah.
so many times, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, and did you have any different I guess you've seen it so many times now. Have you had any different insight, like a reaction to it?
Every time I watch it, it's been a while since I've watched it. Okay, so it's been a few years,
Hmm.
and And every time I watch it, I think I'm picking up something different about the film, something different it's trying to say. This time I picked up something about the relationship between the protagonist and the antagonist. Reminded me more of The Matrix, if you want to go that route. Yeah, but I think that the film itself is built. It has like a weird origin story of Superman goes into Krypton and the destruction and the hope that Kal-El is supposed to bring to the world, and it's slowly building up towards the maybe the more of the action scenes kind of take place from the midpoint of the films to till the end, but it's a slow build up and it's a big payoff, in my opinion. Especially like the relationship between the villain and the hero, and yeah, that I like the movie. What can I do? So
What can I say? Yeah, I guess since this is Naor v. Jason.
I don't know if I want to frame it that way, but I guess if
No,
that's
I'm
what
kidding.
no, it's true. If that's how the Facebook comment thread went, I guess it's inevitable.
Well, I did mention, I don't know if I said this off recording, but before you joined, but obviously it's more me and Noah on one side, and it seems like you and Matt have less of a liking for the movie. But I think we're all on a spectrum, so it's sort of finding where everybody are. But yeah,
Yeah.
Jason, how did you feel this time rewatching it?
Well, I don't think I'd seen it in years. I definitely saw this at least 2 times in theaters. I didn't really love it the first time I saw it, but I liked it enough that when my parents were visiting me in town and we were all going to go to the movies, they really wanted to see Star Trek Into Darkness, and I told them, let's watch this one instead. And then weeks or yeah, months later, when they saw Star Trek Into Darkness, they said, we're glad that we spent our time watching that Superman movie with you. So there's that. But anyway, so I definitely saw it at least twice because I very specifically remember that experience. And then I feel like I saw it at least one time after that, but I really don't know if I did or not. But anyway, how I felt, I don't know. I was kind of preparing for this podcast, so I was mostly just kind of taking some notes about stuff I liked and didn't like and stuff like that. I don't really feel like my opinion changed that much while watching it, though. Just kind of, kind of getting a refresher course, I guess.
I see. What about you, Matt?
Okay,
Aside from the dick.
Well, so I mean, I thought I saw it in theaters too, and I remember it vividly because we went to go see a 2D show, and the Regal theater that we went to was projecting it through a 3D box, and I was the person who had to actually run out of the theater and let them know that they were blurring the image and everything. First time around, I thought it was serviceable, but it looked good. My positive views of the movie haven't changed, which is it looks pretty damn cool. I still think there could have been a little bit more color saturation.
A lot more color saturation.
Yeah. I think that Henry Cavill was a really good casting choice. I love Michael Shannon. I thought that Russell Crowe was good. I really think the cast did a great job. Amir Mokri, the cinematographer, pretty good job. Better than most of the stuff that he's done with Michael Bay. Other than that, second time around, my opinion of this movie really dropped. And it's not really about like the minor details. I mean, there are really glaring errors in the writing of this movie. Not the least of which, I mean, I would basically say that Jonathan Kent, as written in this movie is kind of a narcissistic asshole when you really think about it. So
That's the opposite of that.
he's a random farmer in Kansas who knows the answer to whether or not we're alone in the universe, and he decides that he can handle it, but the rest of the world can't.
That's not a bad point. That's a good point, but at the same time, he is a father, so
He's
he's
trying to
protecting his
protect
son.
his son,
Yeah,
from the
it's
world.
I don't disagree with Matt's take on Kevin Costner's character of Pa Kent. I definitely agree that, or however, I would say that, and I can get into this more later. I definitely think that his character is one of the main issues with the movie.
He had like a very small role in the film, but
Yeah, too small, if you ask me.
as far as I'm concerned, it's first of all, it's Kevin Costner, so he has fatherly Kevin Costner-y kind of
gravitas.
attitude he brings to the screen, which I think is very American, very, if you take the farmer Midwest kind of dude
Mm-hmm.
that is trying to take care of his family against all every kind of danger there is. So he plays into that role, and he knows his son is an outcast. He'll always be an outcast. He's an alien.
Yeah.
First of all, this is, and we haven't, seen other attempts at this kind of source material in comic book movies that talk about the fact that this character is an alien. So first of all, it's an alien movie. It's an alien
Yeah.
invasion movie, like Independence Day. It starts with a bang. They kind of go into the taking over screens, and you are not alone. You're the answer. We know what's the answer to whether or not we are alone in the universe. It's addressing all kinds of issues because Superman is first of all an alien. So there's that, and Pa Kent is just a farmer in Kansas. He doesn't know how to talk to the world or what's his son going to become, how they'll treat him. He doesn't want his son to get hurt. So maybe, as far that's how I see it, he knows his son is invincible. He's like bulletproof. Nothing can hurt him physically, but
Yeah.
emotionally, he's fragile. The kid's fragile. We see that. He knows he's adopted, doesn't know where he comes from. He knows he can't hurt anyone because they'll die. He's even more fragile than just a regular Joe human, okay? So that's the main issue. He's trying to defend his emotional side, not his physical side.
I don't have a problem with Kevin Costner's performance, by the way. I mean, he's great. It's just,
Neither do I. By the way.
I just have a problem with his character and the way that he was written in the script. But anyway, we can go into that later.
Yeah, let
Yeah,
the bus full of kids die.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
problematic. Yeah.
I didn't care for that either.
No, but that's more.
Oh,
I think I think he's struggling. He doesn't know what the right answers are. He's struggling with that as well because he's thinking maybe there's a higher purpose to why this his son arrived on Earth. Maybe there's something more to it, and he's hoping it's for the good, not for the bad. So he's trying to instill good character in him, but at the same time not expose himself. He's making mistakes. He's a human being. Me personally, I think his arc is okay, even though he's flawed, but he's human. And ultimately, I think what this is like, pretty much maybe where all the friction might be here, is that this is a movie that was on the coattail of the Dark Knight trilogy, and Nolan was involved in the story, and David S. Goyer, which I think wrote some of the Dark Knight movies, right?
yes.
Was involved.
He was a writer on them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
Nolan wrote the story for Man of Steel.
yeah, or at least came up. He was working with David S. Goyer on the story, so they're trying to do a similar thing where it's what would happen if an alien came to Earth. Like they really didn't follow the comic to the T.
Yeah,
They're trying to have a
it's
real.
more realistic.
it's like a realistic but fantastical, because obviously it's an alien, so it's gonna be fantastical. But it's trying to like wrestle with what would happen if an alien baby was thrown to Earth, and yeah, and maybe it was trying to do a bit too much, and we can get to that. But is that some of what where the friction is, Jason? Is because you know the comics so well that the departure is one of the things that bothered you?
I would feel like that's an oversimplification to say that. You're not wrong in saying that, but that makes it sound like I'm coming at this from like a purist sort of way. And that's not the case. Plenty of the greatest comic book movies ever made have departed from their source material, at least in the telling of the story and stuff like that. I think what you have to be true to is the message and the intent and the character and things like that, and that's really where I have the issue with this movie. It comes down to a lot of things, but it's interesting. I was thinking right now when you said that, when you brought up the fact that this came on the tail of the Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, everyone knows, if you especially if were watching a lot of movies at that time when these all came out, that DC and Warner Brothers were incredibly successful, in terms, at least in terms of the box office and everything, with the Dark Knight trilogy. And at the same time that they were doing all of that, their competitors, Marvel, had just finished the first phase of their whole thing, and they were pretty desperate to catch up for lost time. And it's pretty clear when you watch the movie. I mean, they got Goyer, and Nolan helped a little bit, but they basically got Goyer and said, okay, like, you did this great thing with Batman Begins, now Batman Begins Superman. Because that's essentially what this movie is. I mean, you look at the way so much of it's told in flashbacks for the first half, and the way they were basically trying to do Batman Begins with Superman and also do Iron Man at the same time.
Yeah,
And in
with a little bit of Transformers Dark of the Moon speckled in.
exactly, yeah, a little bit of
Yeah.
that speckled in.
Uh,
You see the influences, like with the fact that the Transformers stuff, with the fact that, like, at the end they overcomplicate the plot just so that the military has something to do, kind of thing. But that's a very
yeah.
Transformers thing. But anyway, I don't want to harp on that. I just all I'm saying is that I think on paper, if you're sitting around a boardroom in Warner Brothers and someone pitches this and goes, let's get the guys who were so successful with the Dark Knight, and let's have them make this Superman movie, and let's make this Superman movie the first film in our Marvel-esque connected universe kind of thing. It kind of works on paper, especially because they were desperate at this point in time. They had already tried to have their Iron Man with Green Lantern. I mean, there's public quotes of these people saying when Green
Yeah,
Lantern was coming
that
out, they
was
were like,
supposed to be the kickoff.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were like, this is our Iron Man. And then when it failed, they were like, ooh, never mind. We never wanted to do that. And then the fact that if you this is going a little deep, and I probably shouldn't go this deep, but if you look at all of the money that Warner Brothers had spent over the last decade before this movie came out on trying to make a big successful Superman franchise, they were in the hole quite a bit with this material, at least. I mean, they had the previous not quite so successful Superman Returns movie. They had tried to have that one that they were making before that never got off the ground, the one, Superman Lives. That movie was in pre-production. They were spending money on that movie, and they didn't have anything to show for it. And now they needed to get this their investors and everybody was like, you're so far behind Marvel, you got to get this thing going. And you see all that influence in the movie, not always in bad ways too. I mean, I'm not saying that this is all 100% negative. It's just, I feel like the writing's on the wall there. It's like you can see all these little things coming together to make this movie into what it was.
Is it what you're saying, like as a rushed in film? Because I don't feel it's a rushed film.
Oh, I don't mean to say
Because
that it's
I've seen
rushed.
rushed
No,
in
no, no,
films.
no,
Like
no, no, no.
if you take, I don't know, if you take Thor: The Dark World, that looks like a rushed in film.
I would agree with
If
you.
you
That's one
take
of the
Iron
worst
Man
Marvel
2
movies for
or
sure.
Iron Man 3, they look rushed. Like they just wanted to pop out another film to like a cash
Yeah,
grab.
I mean, Iron Man 2 to me suffers not necessarily because it's rushed, although I wouldn't disagree with that. There are some aspects that feel rushed. I think that one suffers more from them focusing too much on world building and trying to like set up the Avengers than focusing on their own movie.
Yeah,
That's my
there's
problem
hardly
with
a
that
villain
movie.
in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's multiple villains, and neither one of them is really a very good villain.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call Man of Steel rushed in that sense. I was just trying to point out that there's a lot of things that went into this movie, and it's you can really see a lot of it, for better or worse, and I don't know, it's very interesting to me.
I can tell you, like, my reaction to it, rewatching it. I was trying to find the flaws this time around because I did like it quite a bit the first time. I wasn't crazy about it. I knew it was an imperfect movie, definitely not Snyder's close to his best, but I enjoyed it more than any other Superman iteration in recent times, and mostly because it was bold. And this time around, I was thinking about the whole Zod thing. Was that rush to bring that on the first movie, all these characters? But then I said, no, that's not rushed. It's a big movie, but it's the story of the alien coming to Earth and then having to come to terms with where he came from, and who better to represent that than Zod? So it all made sense to me, and there's still some flaws in there. So yeah, it doesn't feel too rushed given what they did with the movie and what it was going for. But I do agree that after that, like Superman v Batman was definitely like just truncating 50 things into one movie to try to get to, Justice League as quickly as possible. There's no doubt. But I tend to agree with Naor that it doesn't feel like a rushed movie.
Well, and I mean, I'm perfectly willing to say that Man of Steel is a cynicism, but I mean, the funny thing is, upon rewatch, my first impression was that Batman versus Superman, no matter how bad Batman versus Superman is, which it really is a bad movie, actually kind of helped Man of Steel out a little bit, and we can get into this later. I actually, upon rewatch, think that Batman versus Superman hurt Man of Steel a great deal in how it actually began. We should probably save that for the spoiler.
Let's
Spoiler
real
thing.
fast go through the quick things we usually do, like the the
Oh, they're
stuff
gonna
you
do
guys
the ratings and stuff.
Sure, yeah, that and the quick little like where we feel this falls
Oh,
in his films.
SnyderVerse.
Snyder films. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually didn't rate it. And if I had to rate it, and I will do this right now, I would probably give it a 7. Like it's an enthusiastic 7, but it might be 7.5. But yes, I would be it would be a stretch for me to give it an 8 or a 9 because I would reserve that for Watchmen and 300, which I think are his better movies. But it's a very warm 7 because I acknowledge the flaws in it, but it's definitely not I- it's it's definitely not a bad movie in my mind.
You guys
Hello?
still
Do you
there?
want?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So who's next?
Who's next?
Just jump in.
Okay,
Uh,
so I'm
oh, go ahead.
gonna I'm
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
gonna give my take on it because
Yes.
as I've said, I've seen it multiple times, and I think that one of the keys to maybe truly liking a film is the ability to watch it several times. Like, is it real watchable? If you sit on the couch and say, "Hey, I've got some free time. Do I watch something new, or should I revisit something old I have?" And I think Man of Steel does that pretty well, especially since half of the main blockbuster films today are comic book related. So you can do a comparison. And as you said, 300 and Watchmen are probably his best films, but I don't think they're that much fun to rewatch over and over again because I don't know, kind of heavy, kind of long. They're very good, but I'd give Man of Steel 8.5 towards 9, maybe. But yeah, just because it's not a perfect movie. Some things could have been better, but it's good. It's rewatchable, and I like it. I like the story. I like the story arc of Superman, the hero's journey. The villain is excellent. Yeah.
Cool.
Jason, you go now because I'm
Um,
going to be the asshole.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And not to go deep into this because we can always talk about it later, but I also really value rewatch value when I'm grading my movies, and I do think that this movie does have a decent amount of it. It's funny because I didn't think about the rating before we jumped on here, and so as we were talking, I pulled up this thing. I have a list of every single comic book movie I've ever seen and where I would rank them. So I was able to just real quickly look at that and see where I put it. Now, of course, obviously that's grading on a curve because I'm only comparing them to other comic book movies, which means that compared to normal movies, that these are all way too high. I put it in a big group of stuff that was right around 7.5, but that was just in my comic book listing of grades. If I were to compare this to like all movies and stuff, I'd probably give it like about a 5 or 5.5, something like that.
Like an IMDb kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. If I was rating it on a scale of 1 to 10, and just compared to all movies, I'd probably put it at about a 5 or 5.5 or so. As comic book movies go, it's probably like, let me just look real quickly here.
And where is it
It's
on the Snyder chart?
I like my favorite Snyder movie is 300. I think it's really great. It for a lot of reasons. Not a perfect movie, obviously, but I really like it a lot. I think it changed a lot about the way we film action movies and stuff. So I put that at number one. I really like his Dawn of the Dead film, and I totally agree with you that while Watchmen's a good movie, it's a bit heavy at times, and I don't even know if it really needs to be as heavy as it is. But I do like it. But yeah, I'd probably put this. Sucker Punch is a movie that I should love because all the little genre bending things that it's trying to do are things that I love, and yet it's a really problematic movie. And I'd say this is probably a more successful movie than Sucker Punch, which says a lot because I think this movie has some problems. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'd put this, gosh, maybe like fourth or something.
That's not
That's
bad.
interesting.
Yeah. It's weird because I think Zack Snyder as a visual director is pretty visionary. I do love a couple of his films. I My frustration with him as a director more comes from what I kind of perceive as like a horde of diehard fans that I think hold his stuff a little too high, and stuff like that. But I don't really dislike him as a director. I just looking at his list of movies, I just don't love a lot of his movies.
He's definitely polarizing. He definitely swings for the fences. That's
Yeah, gotta respect him for that. Um,
Matt?
I guess it's my turn. Quick moment. Holy crap! Zack Snyder is actually going to be directing the new adaptation of The Fountainhead.
Oh, you didn't know
Which,
that?
No,
no,
I think it's
He
canceled. He said that like 5 years ago. I think it's canceled. He's
I don't think
uh,
IMDb has updated their
booked
thing yet.
until 2030
oh,
or
okay,
something.
okay,
Yeah.
that's
Well, it wouldn't surprise me
still,
because Zack Snyder has this really twisted view of Ayn Rand. But anyway, whatever.
yeah. Jeez, I think Man of Steel is probably going to be a 4 for me.
is
Wow.
that your
Uh,
lowest? No, what was your funny games?
no, Funny Games was like a 2 or
As a two?
something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it looked great. Henry Cavill was great. Diane Lane was great, but I and Kevin Costner was great. I just couldn't get over. Okay, and here's the thing: if you asked me before I rewatched it and reanalyzed it, I would probably put it at like a 6 or a 7 because most of my quibbles with it were logical problems, but this time around, I really thought about it, and I mean, beyond the logical problems, there are ethical problems, and really, I think just genuine character problems, and I think that Batman versus Superman actually made the movie worse. So, yeah, that's where I stand. We can kick the shit out of each other philosophically, but that's where I'm standing right now.
One thing I was gonna say, just to lead into it, as far as like commenting on Snyder, and I did rate 309, Watchmen 8, and the 7. So I guess because I checked it and it fits my narrative. But so it'll be my third Snyder movie, I think, and maybe following that, maybe the Snyder Cut. I also was okay with that movie. I think that's all the movies of him that I've seen and liked. But I think Snyder, to piggyback off of what Matt said, I do agree that and what Jason said, I think you're both right. He's a visionary director. He's extremely visual. He swings for the fences when it comes to that stuff. And he even reimagined how a movie can be shot, like a superhero movie. But he's not great with character work. And maybe it's because he's not a writer director. I feel like a Christopher Nolan or a Spielberg, I think David Fincher, those directors can know maybe to add a line or work with the writer to add something that's missing in the character work that would make the characters a bit fuller. And I feel like that's one of the flaws in Men of Steel. He doesn't completely flesh out the characters, even though
Yeah,
there's
he
a there's
relies more on visuals and nuances within an actor's face or something
he's
instead of,
trusting you to fill in the gaps,
yeah, yeah,
and I don't know
you're
how much you
supposed to
should do
fill
that
in
in
the
a
blanks.
popcorn movie. Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's the right medium to do that. It worked in 300 and Watchmen maybe also because the characterization is so strong because it came from directly from a source material, both 300 and Watchmen, that it was all there. But here they basically reinvented Superman. So it was all starting from scratch and they were doing something new with him, but he didn't work on the characters well enough to completely flesh them out. So, and that could lead us into the spoilers and everything, because I think one of the big clashes that differences I think that Jason and Naor has as far as the movie is also the ending, because the ending was very polarizing. So we could start from
What?
there.
The fact that there's like an extension level event on Metropolis.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
they
one
kind of
thing.
took it. Yeah, I agree. They kind of took it far as wreaking havoc goes, because what I thought up until that point that the Transformers, they came into a city and just ruined everything. Just ruining buildings, people dying, everything, wreaking havoc, and then Man of Steel came, and it's like, wow, wow, this is like everything goes, like people die everywhere, and it's very bleak, and you see like how should I put it? At the end where they sent the ship to the Phantom Zone, and
Yeah.
Metropolis is after is in rubble, and you
Mhm.
see him in the rubble and Zod over there, and it's all gray. It reminded me of Terminator Salvation or Terminator
Mm.
2 when you go into the future. Everything's ruined. It's like after an atom bomb, and it's like nothing's left, just rubble, and it's yeah, it was very dark.
But I was
Uh,
even more dark story-wise was also the fact that Superman has to make the choice.
Yeah,
Like,
but
the
this is
whole
this is what I said about reminded me more of the characters that sort of like the Matrix. If you take Zod as Agent Smith and Superman as Neo was always Superman, okay, in the Matrix,
Yeah.
but taking Zod and making him Agent Smith, and I'm gonna say why. Because Zod always says every person in Krypton is coming to this world, and even the Genesis chamber, how do you call it, looks
Yeah.
like the Matrix pods.
Mhm.
Every person comes with a purpose, and my purpose is to defend Krypton, and I'll do that at any cost. I will defend my people. Okay, so he has purpose. He believes in purpose, just like Agent Smith. If you take Neo, it's free will, free choice. He's gonna make his own choice. So Superman has to make his own choice in the film. So it's different perspectives. So they collide at the end of the film because this one's all purpose and this one's all choice, and he had to make the ultimate choice, whether to kill the last Kryptonian except him, or to let humans die. He chose humans. That was either that or cease to exist himself, but he chose humans. And that's it, because Zod would never stop. Okay, he told him, stop, stop. I never, okay? That's the line. And he made that choice. So Superman kills. And I liked it. I liked that Superman killed. Because, it's not classic Superman, but hey, they reinvented the material. So in this world and what they built, that's the right call. Like it or not,
That's
that's the right call.
yeah, that's actually one of the aspects of the film that I've been defending for the last near decade. By the way,
That's good.
so
I guess we're in
it,
agreement there.
I'm giving some points. The only problem is that I feel like that moment is entirely negated when you think about the reality that uh, maybe this is a time when you need to kind of handhold the audience, and maybe it's a time when you have to realize what you're doing when you're making Batman versus Superman, because Batman versus Superman showed the consequences of Superman's actions in Man of Steel, which was basically 9/11ing a bunch of skyscrapers that he
A
didn't
lot of
know,
skyscrapers.
right,
Yep.
that he didn't know might have been full of people,
They definitely were full of people.
Yeah,
definitely
full
full of people. So he literally killed a bunch of people in that sequence. Not only that, in the earlier, less epic sequence where it was outside of the IHOP or whatever. I mean, he
Yeah,
throws he throws like a bus into a train and blows it up, and that's a cool moment. But you are aware that you probably fucking killed some people, right?
yeah, but he saved the soldier from falling from a house.
Right.
It's like saving a cat.
I mean, so I mean, it's all
Yeah,
kind
and
of
after
negated
killing like
by that.
200 people in Kansas, this man is not our enemy.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely the one twist character work that I was talking about. Like, he does help the kids when he's younger, and he helps some people when he's like a vagabond type of, like, on and around, like. But you never actually see him help people in the Superman suit, which is one of the departures
Yeah,
in the movie.
because it's like
Yeah.
the for the most part, the humankind should treat him like it's not like this man is not our enemy. It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's the approach they should come to terms with. It's different because they don't know him.
Yeah, no,
Trust
for
him,
sure. And it was a departure, and it was interesting that they took that approach, because we've seen it many times. We saw the Christopher Reeve, we grew up on it, the nice Superman that helps people, like establishing that. But this was basically someone who was in the shadows his entire life, as he probably would be in reality, and he was thrust upon the stage, just at the right moment. So yeah, it kind of works for me, but at the same time, it's some of the stuff that's the characterization that's.
It doesn't work for
Sorry,
me at all.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's the reason? Yeah.
I-
Talk about that, Jason, and also the ending. You haven't said about that.
It's about all of it. So it's not just that they had Superman kill somebody. That's not the problem. That would be like really oversimplistic. So the problem is what they do to Superman's character with everything you just said. Like, this is not your father's Superman. I mean, this is a whole new Superman, blah, 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 blah. This whole movie not only undermines its own premise, but is so eager to get that point across. This is the new Superman, blah, 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 and do all this. And in doing so, it culminates at the end when he kills Zod in that way that they have completely undermined everything that this character is supposed to be. Like I said, I don't care if they make minor changes here and there and whatever, but you can't just take a story that is like a universal story or near universal story that all these people have grown up with and make massive changes to it unless you're trying to do something like a deconstructive type of work, in which case you need to really, really understand the source material in the first place. And it also helps that, if it's already been done recently, well, and none of that's true in this case. Zack Snyder does not like Superman. He has said so in his own right. He doesn't even think he's a good character. He just, was handed the reins to this project and wanted to make a bunch of DC movies and stuff. But I mean, this is like he was so eager to like kind of make it not Christopher Reeves. Let me just read this real quick. This is not me saying this. I wish I was this clever, but this is from Honest Trailers. It's like one of the I watched this earlier and I laughed so fucking hard. It says, so if you loved the Christopher Reeves era Superman movies, but wished they had far less hope, wish they made it far less hopeful, killed countless civilians, visualized our worst fears of urban terrorism, and had Superman overcome his very first villain by murdering him with his bare hands, DC has made the movie for you, psycho. But no, and as funny as that is, it gets to a very real point. It's not about the fact that he has to kill him at the end. My issues with it as being a massive departure from the comic books and stuff like that, but it's like the movie is actively trying to undermine itself in a thematic way. It's really weird. You've got this story of Superman growing up, and he's presented by his two parents, or not his two parents, sorry, his two fathers. He's got one Robin Hood and he's got another Robin Hood, and they're both telling him two totally different things. One of them, Russell Crowe, is telling him that he's going to be this symbol of hope and he's going to be this like godlike figure and blah, 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 blah. He's telling him, use your powers, save people, be great. And you got Pa Kent telling him, Kevin Costner, Prince of Thieves, telling him, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do any of that.
I only got the Robin Hood thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot the horrible Ridley Scott movie.
Everyone's lucky to have forgotten that one. Sorry, Russell Crowe. Anyway, if it helps, I just bought 3 of your movies on Blu-ray the other day. Anyway, no, but his Pa Kent is telling him, don't reveal your identity. Don't reveal your identity to anybody. Keep yourself secret, even if it means possibly other people dying. Don't reveal your identity. And he's so convinced of this that he is okay letting his son let him die when he could have the power to save him. And more than likely, if he just ran over there at a normal human speed using his super strength to grab his father and pull him back, people would not have been like, oh, he's an alien. They would have been like, like that was a miracle. I can't believe he was able to do that. That was amazing.
But that was an emotional scene, and that, as far as I'm concerned, that was good because that's his take on it. Because he wanted to defend his son from the world, and partially he was right. Because look at how Batman reacted. Okay, he just tried to kill him.
Well, I'm not trying to get at that. You could make a movie like that, and that would be okay. There's other issues with it, aside from the fact that scene is really silly the way it plays out.
Also, like a major glitch in that scene is they didn't establish that other people were able to get out of their cars. So it wasn't just John Kent saying, "Oh, well, sacrifice me to keep you a secret." He was literally saying, if anybody gets sucked up by this freaking tornado, it's all good so long as people don't know who you are.
I guess.
No.
I don't know.
You're
I
looking
don't-
at it the wrong way. The
I don't
main
know.
villain, the true villain in that scene is the mother. It's because she said, "Hey, everyone's safe. Yeah, but what about the dog? Risk your life.
Oh God!
Go and die.
Seriously,
Get the
seriously,
dog, asshole."
You can't let the dog die. It's
Yeah,
screenwriting.
it's
rule.
American.
But anyway, all I was trying to get at is the fact that so you've got these two Robin Hood fathers, right? One is
Yeah.
saying use your powers to save people, even if it means exposing yourself. The other is saying whatever you do, don't let anyone know who you are, don't expose yourself, and possibly even if it means letting other people die. But at the end of the movie, he lets countless people die and exposes his powers. So he does the worst of both.
Yeah, but he was exposed. He didn't just expose his powers.
Which
He
is
was
another
exposed.
problem with the movie, actually, because so that's actually why I feel what you just said is the reason I feel that scene is so problematic. I think the Pa Kent dying scene is really troubling to me because you got this guy telling him don't reveal yourself because it could be dangerous, and then they double down by having Lois know about him. She writes the article, and Perry tells her we're not going to print it. And he says to her in private, he says, I kind of believe you, but do you know how dangerous it would be to let the world know that there's aliens right now? That presents this movie with actually a pretty decent moral dilemma. Does he reveal himself and change the world, or does he not? And
Yeah,
he's got
but he didn't.
and he wants
He
to.
didn't
And
get to make
then
that decision.
5 minutes on screen, 5 minutes after Pa Kent dies, to give him that ability to make that choice, Zod shows up and thematically makes his death pointless, and also
Yeah, but
takes all the
that was a flashback. That was a
no, of course,
flashback. That
no. I'm
wasn't
I'm
5 minutes
talking about
later.
I'm talking about as a film, as a storytelling thing. I'm not saying it happened 5 minutes in the chronology of the story. I'm saying we're presented with this movie where Pa Kent dies and sacrifices himself so that our hero can have a choice to make. And then 5 minutes later in the movie, all the driving force in the movie is taken away from the lead character, and now he's just reacting. Because now Zod shows up and goes, "You're not alone in the world. There's a guy living on your planet. We're going to kill all of you unless he gives himself up." Well, okay, there goes all his choices.
No, but I think the
Yeah,
whole
but
thing
he
with the
had a
two
lot of choices in
fathers.
between.
Yes, and then also the thing with the two fathers, the Robin Hoods, is that I think it is a movie about fatherhood, about fathers being a godlike figure. Because like Superman is supposed to be a god to humans, but really fathers are a god to their sons. They're very influential. It is a movie about fatherhood, and he has two fathers, and you're right. One of them has hope for him, and the other one doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do. So he wants to give him the choice, and he wants him to be ready. So he wants either if you're called upon. What happens in the movie is that he's it's thrust upon him, which is the way it happened. But Kevin Costner, Prince of Thieves, he didn't know if it would happen that way. He said either that's gonna happen, like you'll know when you're forced to it, or you'll know that it's the right time. Whenever he finds out his identity or his true father, all those things. So it's about the tug and pull between those two fathers. And I'll agree with Matt that the next movie ruins this movie in a way, even though obviously we're just talking about this movie as a standalone, because if the idea is that he had to go through this horrible trial of going through this mess with Zod and killing the last Kryptonian and all that stuff, but then he doesn't get to have a normal Superman movie, and the following one
Right?
that's what ruins Man of Steel, because that's him going through hell in order to be that that symbol of hope, but he never gets to be that because in the next movie he just struggles with it. But as a standalone movie, I do think that it's a hopeful movie in the end. It's just that to get to the hope,
Yeah,
you need
it's
to go
hopeful.
through the shit. You need to go through the horror. Like it's
Oh my God.
Because
well, I
bad
mean,
stuff happens. Come on, bad stuff happens, but you don't lose hope because Superman's there.
well,
Think about it. Think about
well,
it.
I,
There's a
well,
guy fighting for America,
Oh my God.
doing all kinds of shit,
I mean,
defending the nation. That's hope.
what,
No, no.
No more enemies.
what's more hopeful than a
That's like
city that
Dr.
can be
Manhattan.
destroyed? Sorry, what is more hopeful than than a city that can be destroyed in a day and also rebuilt in a day? I mean,
Yeah, but come on, that's
it's
like
just like
Avengers, the first Avengers, when the Chitauri came and ruined the city.
don't get me started on Joss Whedon.
the other half.
That's a whole different episode.
Yes.
But I mean, the thing is, even without Batman versus Superman, which again, I think I don't know. Do we all agree that that's a blemish on
No,
Man of Steel?
I think
No,
Batman
I
v
don't think it's
Superman
a
is a
blemish.
blemish on mankind.
Okay. But I mean,
I was offended by it.
that was good. But the thing is, again, while I was washing Snyder dick out of my mouth, uh, and watching The Dark Knight, it's one of those consistent things with Superman and Batman that they have rules. They don't kill, and they're always trying to.
They
I
had
mean,
rules.
even if you want to deviate from that rule, you can't avoid the fact that the sequence in The Dark Knight when he captures the Joker, where he realizes, holy shit, the police officers are targeting the wrong people, and he needs to be creative and safeguard the lives of every innocent person in that building in order to get to his objective is way more interesting than anything that happened in Man of Steel.
Yeah, nobody's denying it's a better movie, but it's
Yeah,
a
but
different
they-
story.
No,
they
It's-
destroyed
it's a-
the
it's a-
Matt's not
privacy.
talking
it's
about
a-
it being a better movie. Matt's
It's a-
talking about the thematic problems that are in this
Right.
movie, but are and using that as an example of it being done right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
how,
I like
how
the-
Superman
the-
could have avoided
and,
these.
and,
like
and it's also
what Gil
it's also
said
a big
about
missed opportunity.
the father
Right.
thing.
What were you saying,
The
Dub?
father thing, the father motive, the father theme itself goes back to Snyder films as a whole, because he used that theme on Man of Steel. Also, we saw that on BVS when Pa Kent comes on the mountain, tells him the story about the horses and flood and
Oh,
stuff.
the vision scene.
Yeah, and
Oh man, that's when I walked out of that theater.
the thing on the Snyder cut, you see there's a chapter called "The Father Twice Over," because the cyborg and his father two
Yeah.
times the ability to be a father to his son. He likes the father son theme.
There's something in
and it
300
plays.
too, no?
Yeah, there's something in 300 also when he teaches
Oh yeah,
his
the
son
with the what's his face? With the
with the
with the
captain.
Magneto, no? With
No,
Fassbender, no? Isn't
Yeah, no.
Fassbender's
no.
in the movie. He steals
He
the
has a
movie. I don't know if he
captain
has anything about a
which-
kid.
Oh no
in
no
it.
no
takes
no!
his
There's a
son.
captain and his son, and the
Yeah.
son dies at some
Oh,
point.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
Fassbender
And-
though.
And he gets beheaded because it's Snyder.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll
Yeah.
put in like 2 cents about Snyder, since we mentioned the much dick that Matt got, is as far as like as a cinematic entity. What I found interesting about Snyder is, and it worked really well with 300 and Watchmen. It's working less and less in other movies, but he's essentially the American John Woo in a way. Like
Oh,
he,
interesting.
Well, the slow motion stuff,
yeah, the slow
the cape in
motion,
slow motion.
the I mean, come on, 300
That was
was
the
out of
birds,
control,
though.
but it
Yeah.
No
really worked.
pigeons.
Yeah.
Yeah, just there's no pigeons. There's just a lot of blood and stuff like that.
I'm just gonna throw this out there while we're
Not a
having
lot
this
of
conversation.
peace.
I don't hate John Woo. I think his movies got a little
I do.
ridiculous, but I mean
And
his
I
Hong
think
Kong
that's what
stuff's pretty good.
happens, and maybe that's the issue, is that much like John Woo, where do you go? Like once you make 300 and Watchmen and Man of Steel, you just keep trying to up yourself, and that's really not. And you know, Nolan has the same issue. That's why he came out with Tenet, because he was like, you know, where do you go after Inception and this and that? Like, oh, I guess I'll go back in time with the.
Yeah,
It's like, you know, he just doesn't know
I
what to
don't
do
need a
anymore.
plot. I'll just play it over in reverse.
Yeah.
Snyder can go up himself. I don't need to see any more of his DC movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just a DC movie kind of thing. If it's comic book related, you're just against the.
I was just making a joke, but no, that's not entirely wrong. Actually, Dawn of the Dead was good. 300 was great. Watchmen was very interesting, but I think he was the wrong person to direct it for sure. I think he had a bad grasp of that story, even though it was pretty faithful up until the end. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. I think Zack Snyder is probably the one of the 5 to 10 worst people that DC could have chosen to use as the template for their universe, for their little Marvel-esque DC extended universe, because they wanted to use Man of Steel as their like foundation, as they ended up doing, and they basically got Zack Snyder to direct a David Goyer script, and they probably just told them, do exactly what you did with Batman Begins with this, and all of the things they did in Batman Begins works because Batman is an incredibly different character than Superman, and the moment you try to do all that stuff with Superman, it completely destroys everything you're going for.
Yeah, although
Yeah,
Batman has
Superman's a
been
very difficult character.
It
I've heard
is.
an interview with Snyder when they worked on the movie. I remember seeing it behind the scenes before the movie came out. He said Superman's a very difficult character to work with. He's a tough cookie. He can't be destroyed. Going punches and punches and lasers and bullets doesn't work. He's basically overpowered.
He is.
You know, that's the source material. He's overpowered.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that character?
I'll
It's
tell
like
you.
endless
You
punching, and it doesn't
well,
work.
you have to be very creative in
So
how you
you
do
have
it,
to
and
break him spiritually. You
yeah,
see?
that's fine.
That's
That's
it.
fine too.
well, I
But
mean, kryptonite.
that's not the problem with the movie. The problem is that this is a movie that is supposed to be about hope, and it's not. The movie is joyless and hopeless, and the colors are subdued, and
I do
it's
agree. The saturation,
gross.
the
Yeah.
tone. Yeah,
The
no, I
Yeah,
tone
I
of the
agree.
kind of
movie
like the
is
tone.
awful.
I
The,
like the
the,
tone. I
it's
don't
not a
like
bad
Well,
tone,
it's
but
not a
it's
bad
not
tone.
just right.
It's in appropriate tone for Superman.
It could have been a bit more, yeah, like a bit more colorful at times. It could have been a bit more humorous
Yeah,
at
it's kind of
times.
blue. I
Yeah.
admit, it's kind of blue.
I,
The blue
I,
tint.
I
The blue tint is pretty obvious because you barely see the red on the S.
On the S.
Yeah, the cape's
yeah.
red, but
Yeah.
you barely see the red and the yellow on the suit because yeah, that's the tone. But that's the tone they were going for. That's why the Matrix is green. Okay, because that's the tone they were going for.
That's
Well,
because
yeah,
of the
and
computer
I
screens. They're
again,
green.
I think it's a terrible choice. I understand that it's a choice. It's the wrong choice for Superman. It's the right choice for Batman. The
Yeah.
wrong choice for Superman. Batman is a DC Comics in general, the old ones, the Golden Age stuff like that, those characters, they all stood for something. They were like a symbol of things. Marvel Comics, not so much. Only a couple of them were really like supposed to be symbols of things. But I mean, Superman is supposed to be a symbol of hope. His character is supposed to be too good. He's supposed to be too good. He's
but
the
look at
living
the
embodiment of
Richard
all
Donner.
things. Yeah.
Look at the
Okay.
Richard Donner version of Superman. He basically, if you go back to that movie right now, looks like a guy in pajamas.
Yeah.
And is smiling at people and saving cats and
yeah.
It's like too much.
It's not very
I think
realistic.
movies
I think there's a happy medium.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but
okay. Well, let me just say this.
I
want
to just agree.
go ahead.
Want to agree with Jason about the
also, since I'm the cinematographer in the group, can I interject at some point? But
oh yeah,
but Gil, go ahead.
Well, let me before I forget. I'm sure I'm gonna forget. But,
go ahead,
Jason just said something about tone, right? And yeah. What I was gonna say is, what was missing for me in his characterization that I felt like should have not been dropped is that Superman's weakness is his soft spot for humans. And I thought that it was missing the entire movie, but they do pay it off in the end, like when Zod is about to kill the people, next to the wall and stuff, like with his eyes. The whole movie is like, this is what I'm going to tell them. That's the flaw of the movie. They don't utilize his weakness against him. Like as far as like a strategic thing to like make him like, keep running after trying to save people, like Lex Luthor does in the original like Superman. But then in the end,
most of the movies he's pulling his punches. The Fiora, the character, the girl, Fiora something. She tells him, your weakness is your sense of moral. We don't have it. So he doesn't laser them every second, trying to kill them through most of the movie.
But I will say, even that, I felt like, yeah, she said it, but it wasn't played off. It didn't show as much, and that's the characterization issue with Snyder, is that the lines of dialogue were there, but whether it's a visual that needed to be seen, like an extra shot, an extra scene, or an extra line of dialogue,
the entire tone of the movie.
What? Yeah, but in any case, but now, Matt, you should go about this.
Okay, well, I don't want to get too technical, but as has already been said, Man of Steel was probably definitely intended to be the DC version of the MCU, and one of the biggest weaknesses of the MCU, sorry, I think that came out as an N, has been the visuals. They decided that everything needed to look the same. That's how Joss Whedon got Seamus McGarvey as his cinematographer and got him to light a movie like it was an episode of Saved by the Bell. It looks like it looks terrible. And so Zack Snyder comes in and he's got a very keen visual sense and a clear visual style, and it works with Watchmen. It works with 300. The problem is they hired him to make Superman, and they hired him to make Superman because they wanted to make future DC Comics movies. So they needed him to create the visual style for the DC Comics universe in the same way that people created the MCU look, because they needed to make it television on a big screen. So, I mean, I could really imagine Zack Snyder's hands being tied. I can imagine the cinematographer's hands being tied. I can imagine a lot of people's hands being tied in creating this dreary-looking movie.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people said that they were going for the opposite of Marvel. Marvel was too bland, and they're going for a darker, more like the Dark Knight type of.
Yeah.
Which again works for Batman, doesn't work for Superman.
It needs
Yeah.
to be some nuance. Even Marvel movies are not identical exactly.
There's
like
plenty of them that are very different.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Taika Waititi's Ragnarok movie doesn't look anything like Captain America: Civil War,
Yeah, no,
or
there's
feel
no
for that
doubt.
matter.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, Captain
definitely.
America: Civil War looks different because it's different people doing the film. Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, I think that in both cases, parameters were put in place and creative people were handcuffed. And even though you can say that the movies look different, you can't deny that they are really following a game plan that they
Yes.
may or may not have actually wanted to follow.
Mhm.
So I mean, the only way that Seamus McGarvey shoots a movie that looks as bad as the Avengers is because he's being told, look, we'll give you $1 million, but you have to do what we say. Seamus McGarvey is a better cinematographer than that.
Yeah.
So I guess we can try. So it seems like we covered it pretty well. Do you want to do your as a wrapping up thing, your Joss
I
Whedon?
got a lot more I
thing?
got to talk about. I got a lot more. I gotta
Okay.
talk
So go ahead, Jason.
about. I can make it quick if you want, but I just
I before you go, I
Yeah.
really have to
wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay. No, it's good. I think we covered it pretty well. So thank you for joining us, Naor. I think it was actually, I think it's my favorite episode to record. It was just very entertaining.
This is fun.
It was really fun. We should definitely do it more often. I know it's tough to do this, but every once in a while it'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll try to wrap it up from here. Was there anything else, anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to say about the movie? Or
No, I had a lot of fun. I think you got my view, and that quote on the beginning really set the tone for the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm sorry I screwed it up. Obviously, I can't keep a straight face.
No, that was epic.
Cool.
Yeah,
well,
so,
thanks again.
Thanks for having me, and
Absolutely.
yeah, until next time.
Yeah, till next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Right.
Okay, bye guys.
See you later.
Bye.
Okay, see ya.